afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of MSME Masterclass. We are thrilled to have Meetali Mukherjee, the Managing Director of HYDAX Private Limited, with us today. She brings a unique blend of creativity and technical prowess to the manufacturing industry. With a graduate degree in English literature and a certificate in entrepreneurship from IIM Bangalore, Meetali describes herself as an engineer at heart, passionately committed to product and process improvement within the manufacturing space. Meetali's leadership at HYDAX has focused on driving operational excellence and creating a supportive and encouraging environment for women in manufacturing, a personal mission that aligns with her broader goal of promoting gender diversity in the sector. A storyteller and artist in her own right, Meetali has been collecting numerous anecdotes from the manufacturing world, which she plans to share in a project titled Manufacturing Stories. In her spare time, she indulges in crafting beautiful handmade upcycled objects from wood, cloth, yarn, and beads, skills honed with her impressive collection of hand tools, many of which are inherited. Beyond her professional and creative interests, Meetali is also dedicated to environmental sustainability. As a member of the Executive Council of the Fluid Power Society of India, she actively works on initiatives like reviving the contaminated water bodies around her industrial area and ensuring the lakes remain pollutant-free. Under her leadership, HYDAX continues to inspire young minds by sponsoring student awards at the annual Fluid Power Contest. Let's welcome Meetali Mukherjee as she shares her invaluable insights on scaling up with automation and how MSMEs can harness these advancements for rapid growth. Welcome to MSME Masterclass, Meetali. We're really pleased to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So Meetali, will begin with our first question, which is why should smaller businesses consider automation and what are the key benefits for the same?
As an MSME, we pretty much take a huge load on our heads and on our shoulders, right? There's so much to handle. And if we can automate the small tasks and make it easier for us, we get time to focus on the bigger picture. The big decisions which actually need our attention and not get ourselves bogged down with the smaller micro tasks, which can easily be automated, right? So I think it is even more important for MSMEs to undertake small tasks of automation to reach up, scale up, to get bigger.
And how can, Meetali, this automation help smaller enterprises stay competitive against larger players in the industry?
And the beauty of being a small organization is that we are more agile, right? We are able to take quick decisions, right? So, which a bigger organization will probably, take a lot of process and they would have so many compliances to go through to take even the smallest of decisions. We have the benefit of taking that decision very fast, right? So within that decision-making process, if we can bring in our desire to bring in automation, it'll be a huge benefit to us. It'll definitely stand us in good state because we can work faster. We can get that end result out in a much faster manner. Vis-a-vis a bigger organization, we do not have the rigmarole to go through. So that will really help us, in the long stay.
Absolutely. And what are some common misconceptions about adopting automation?
That it is expensive, that it is complicated. There is this whole media conception about, these terminologies like factory of the future and all of those things which are floating around. And they scare people more than anything. It looks like it's such a big thing to do, but automation is not that. Automation is very simple, small things, right? So when we started this small little software thing some years ago, started working on it during COVID when we had some free time, and there were small packages which were being done. So instead of doing this big software thing, we decided let's do smaller parts. So a small thing like monitoring the security guards thing through GPS was one of the things that we are, implementing, where we know instead of, the biggest problem today is a security guard, we have to monitor the security guard. So we said, let their mobile phone tell the location of where they are patrolling within the premises. And that's recorded on a daily basis. right? So there are small things, which can be done, and we shouldn't be intimidated by the terminology that is picturized around, especially by big companies, which make it look so unachievable. It is very much within our grasp. There are so many incidents and examples of people, small scale industries around in India, overseas, who are doing small acts of automation to make their life easier.
Moving on to our next question, Meetali, which is very interesting, is what steps should businesses take before starting the automation journey that they take?
I think one has to first open our mind to the concept, right? I would say, to start on the journey, choose the smallest task which you can automate. Just choose the smallest and most achievable, and also which is causing a hold up in your business. So it's very important to choose that one which is your, that pain point, that irritation, that most annoying thing that you have around you, and say, let's get that out of the way. Yeah, what can we do to get that out of my life and put it on self-driven mode? There are small things, that we're looking at. I can give you examples from our factory. So we have some couple of cutting machines which are running in a section which is away from the main shop floor. And we didn't know when they are automatic cutting machines. So we didn't know when it would stop and the next material had to be loaded. So a simple thing with one of our engineers came up with is just put a connection between there to our main shop floor to for a light to blink when it stopped. It was just simple, just an electrical wire thing. That moment there is no more load and the rod has lifted up for more than 10 seconds. I mean, the blade is up for more than 10 seconds. There was a light that would glow in the main shop floor. So, the operators here knew that something had to be loaded over there. It was such a simple thing. It's like, then we have another machine where moment it stops. So there's a single operator who's running a couple of machines. Now, because there's a longer cycle time, it's 10 minutes, the attention would waver. They're busy with something else. So we actually put a calling bell, the doorbell of the house. So we put that, so moment the machine stopped, that would ring. So it would be like, I think one of them had that usual doorbell thing of, please open the door. So it was so unlike anything for a machine, but yes, it would get their attention. So then, in fact, the operators also got creative. For the next machine, they brought one with music. So every time it stops, there's a song which plays and they go running. So it's good fun also for them, So yeah, these are small things. So we need to start with the small things, and then everything looks, then it multiplies. You look at other things, around you. You said, why not this object too? Why not this machine too? Right? So somehow it kind of all falls into place. I don't think we should be really kind of feel that the entire thing has to be automated at one shot. I don't think that's possible also. Right? Unless you're starting a new plant right from the word go, where you have taken it up that it will be fully automated from day one. If you're incorporating automation in existing processes, one has to do it in smaller parts.
Correct. Now let's move on to a question which we are often asked whenever we're discussing about automation by smaller companies and MSMEs, which is how can automation be integrated without disrupting the existing workflows?
So when we are talking about bringing in automation, we are talking about bringing in change to begin with. Change and disruption, in my mind, are the same, right? You are talking about altering the way things are. So there will be disruption. There will be, it is part of the deal. So if you want to make that change, I think one has to be ready for that disruption. One has to be accept that yes, there will be a break in the flow. What you had earlier, unless you want to continue with what was there earlier, it doesn't make sense. Then one doesn't even want to talk about change. Then just let things be. So change and disruption go hand in hand. So please accept that there will be change, there will be disruption to go with it, and only then move ahead.
Now, an integral part of this automation is what affordable automation tools and technologies are available for MSMEs in India.
So there's nothing which will come just like that on a platter, right? There is this word called, I think everyone has heard, called jugaad. And it's very infamously used. It's used in a very with a negative connotation. But what is jugaad if not automation? It's trying to make easier ways to do things, right? So that's the most commonplace thing that we have seen in our manufacturing sector, right? So I think we have been doing it for a long time. I think the word automation scares us, right? There is no business owner who does not want to make their life simpler, who does not want to make an easier process, who does not want to make a faster process, or who does not want to make a more precise operation, right? There is no business owner who will say, no, I want to go back. I want to go back to the Stone Age and start cutting with my teeth or hands or stones, I mean, I don't think anyone wants to do that. The endeavor of every entrepreneur is to move ahead, to get better. And how we do it is the question. I mean, is the question, and is also the solution we are all working towards. Every day, it is that. What is affordable? Now, I would also focus on the business aspect of it, right? We only look at the manufacturing, but a very, very integral part of it is the business aspect. I think a decent ERP is something that everybody needs to go for. And today there are even Excel and Google based, you can design your own. It's pretty simple. One can do that on, in fact, to give our example, we were a pretty, that paper based, I'm talking about like 25 years ago, I think, we were this paper-based inventory system. So we had an inventory guy who would every day at the end of the day after production put in, all the data. And one day he was not there. I mean, not one day, because he left. And so I was doing this. So I would do it over the weekend. Just take all the stuff, and it wasn't great to do. And my Saturday night, instead of going out to party, this is what I would do, fill up the inventory. And then I said, there has to be a better way. So we designed our own Excel inventory system. And it was so accurate, down to the last 5 pieces, we had accuracy. That level of accuracy, it was brilliant. And it was maintained by my shop floor people. Right? Because I thought Excel is something that the easiest, and also that whole mode of translation from shop floor to the office. And, I thought, let's eliminate that thing in between. Let the people on the shop floor itself do it. So whatever production was happening, they would enter themselves on Excel. So the accuracy was unbelievable. But of course, I think we grew beyond that. And what happened was our accounting was on another platform. Our business, the production was in another platform. And then the most natural progression is we went in for an ERP. So I think most business owners should look at ERP. Yes, it takes time for implementation, but it's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible. This is apart from shop floor, small automation that can be done. Business automation is a very, very important part of this, right? One should look at that.
Now, Meetali, can you tell us, does automation affect employee productivity and morale? And if it does, then how does it do it?
I think it can only get better. If somebody working in the company sees a faster, easier, more precise, generally a better way of doing things, of course they'll be enthused, right? It's if we had to machine a certain object and depend on totally the operator's skill, right? Vis-a-vis a device telling us that yes, it's okay, it's all right now, it's ready to go to the next process. The operator doesn't have the onus of bearing this whole load of getting that perfect product out. Okay, it's shared between the device and the person. Maybe the operator is looking and measuring it. So that is their The machine, I'm not saying is foolproof. There are issues with machine, but if the operator uses their innate knowledge to actually check whether it's wrong or right, rather than having also the onus of making it right or wrong, eases their life, makes it so much better. So I think it will definitely aid in making employees more accountable, feeling good about the whole work that they're doing, right? They're not so bogged down and not so pressurized.
And what's the best way to balance manual processes with automation in daily operations?
I don't think you can, if you're looking and going for automation, you're clearly saying that I'm moving away from manual. Right? Now, what is the balance that someone chooses to take is pretty much an individual decision, right? But manual, the whole purpose of going into automation is that you are trying to reduce the chances of human error. Machine error is there, but machine error, you can dive into the cause of it, right? You can find out why it happened. You can investigate that. But human error there are a lot of variables which we cannot define. If today somebody had a fight before they entered the shop floor in the morning with their spouse, they'll take it out on the work. And you cannot define that. You cannot ask somebody when they enter the workplace, like, did you have a good day today? Right? I think it's somewhat connected to this. Gandhi in Sabarmati Ashram, every morning when he would greet the inmates, he would ask them whether, they had finished their morning ablutions. Because he felt that if you're done with your morning tasks, if your system is clear and clean, you could function better the rest of the day. Now, that is something he did, and at a very personal level. Today, we don't do that in our organizations. We don't greet somebody, when they walk in and say, like, did you have a good morning and are you great to work today? We don't do that, honestly, right? So what the baggage that they've carried with them and have come is not measurable, right? So therefore, the idea is when we say, how do you balance it? There is no balance. When you're going on the path of automation, you're clearly saying that I am trying to go away from the manual.
But there is human intervention involved, right?
Everywhere. It's not possible without human. And even this, what we spoke about is the machine doing the work. But okay, of course, even the measurement can be done by a machine, another device. But let's say at that point, you're balancing it, the manual part. Now, let's say the person who was measuring it didn't measure it properly. Right? Then you have to take a call whether you're willing to take that risk of rejection, right? In your production scheme, whether you are okay with that, whether the machine level rejection is okay with you or whether the measurement level rejection is okay with you. Which of the two are you okay with? Which is a bigger loss to you? Right? Whether it's at the machine level or whether at this level. Whether you say that both are not okay, then I want to automate both and then move on. So these are measures we all have to take for us. These are decisions we have to take for ourselves. Yeah, there is nothing without human intervention. I mean, today we're talking about business practices, being automated. But end of the day, an accountant will do data entry. If they've done a wrong data entry, it is wrong. There is no place in this. We all know from banking and so many practices, it's one wrong data entry and the thing is wrong. Right? It's as simple as that. So human, intervention is there everywhere. I mean, even today, the decision to take automation, let's say it comes from the management, it could be erroneous. Yeah, it could be that the management has taken a wrong decision to automate. So what do you do then? So yeah, sometimes we have to go back. So there is that balance. The decision to do automation itself is a manual decision. It's a manual process. Right?
I think a lot of resistance is something that we've seen or observed is when we talk to people on the shop floor. They feel that with automation, their jobs are at stake. So that notion needs to go out of their head that human intervention will still be required.
Absolutely. And at the risk of sounding very harsh and very brusque, if you face that level of resistance, then the person who's resisting that much has to move to another area, right? Because end of the day, for the entire organization to grow, everyone has to be at level, has to be move along the same path, right? So there is a lot of we had, when we got our first CNC machine, we had a lot of resistance. There was a tool down strike, eventually over a period of time. Going from there to where those very same people today, who turned around and were doing all my business automation, the entries, they saw the benefit in it, right? So it took a lot of effort. It's not something that will come easy, but the point is we have to keep trying. That is what we do. No, our work is never easy in MSMEs. We have to keep trying, right? It's an everyday thing. And I think any organization, it's every day that waking up in the morning and thinking about what you will do today is itself an exercise in telling ourselves that we are moving towards a better day today and for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. Now, how can MSMEs or any company encourage a culture of continuous improvement while adopting newer technologies?
I would say drills. Drills are an everyday thing. It should be part of your process. One thing that worked for us in our organization, and we started applying it to all areas. So we are a 5S certified company. Now, for us to get our employees to get into 5S mode was very difficult. There was a lot of resistance. Why should I do it? And especially because we brought everyone into the loop, from the operator to the engineers. Everyone had to be part of that entire process. So what we did is, for every shift, there was a drill. We're working 3 shifts now. Every shift, the shift engineer had to do the drills with everybody. So, of course, usually the carrot model, giving prizes to the team that did the best, all of those, things. But drills are an everyday thing till it enters and becomes part of your DNA. It has to be there every single day. So now if it is not done, there's actually a thing, it was not done. Somebody else asked, the drill was not done today. So the drill should be self-driven eventually, right? So it's like us, if we are into health and fitness, everyday exercise becomes a part of your life. If the day you don't do it, you'll feel like, something's missing today. So the same thing, I think everyday reinforcement is required to make it part of the culture. There are organizations like I think Toyota, where that every 1 hour they do the exercise, just to loosen the muscles, because varicose veins, ailments like that are very common for workers who have to stand very long hours. So, to do certain exercises to loosen your blood vessels, all of that are mandatory in many organizations now. It is, you are looking after the health of the worker for future, right? After working for 10 years, if they are sick, then we are not gaining anything, right? Or nor is that person. So we have to reinforce that every single day. So if you want to bring in automation, the drills to implement that automation have to be reinforced every single day without exception.
Now, Meetali, can you tell us which manufacturing process, or rather processes, are ideal candidates for automation?
Top floor processes are easiest. With small tasks can be done. But what is readily available are business processes to automate. That's today, with IT having overridden manufacturing, IT has given a lot of processes to automate all your business processes. So that is easier because it's more easily available. But if you're talking about the manufacturing sector, the entrepreneurs in manufacturing sectors, I am assuming mostly are either engineers by qualification or at heart, like I am. So, making processes easier and simpler is something we want to do consciously every day, right? We want to bring in better practices every day. So on one side there's a will, and one side there is something that can be done easily, right? So there's a good balance. There's a good balance between the two, but both are required, I would say.
And how can a business implement automation incrementally without needing significant upfront investment?
Yeah, I think the investment is something that's always our sore point in MSMEs. Yeah, we are struggling. So I think budgeting right in the beginning of the year, that this is what we will set aside for this year, or maybe having short to long-term plans for certain processes and saying, okay, this is studying like at the beginning of the year. This is the pain point. We want to automate this particular part of it. So what do we do? What do we do about this particular point? So this is what the funds that it will take. Set aside that, right? Similarly with the business processes, your budgeting for the year, I think, is a huge way in, and then working towards achieving that budget, getting that budget. So because it works both ways, then you have a will to, a huge desire to make that much money to ensure this automation happens. So incremental goes without saying, it will happen. Once you're on that path, you see the benefits from one small automation, and then you do naturally want to implement more and more of that. And it is a natural process. It's so organic, once you start, because then, the same thing, the culture of the organization demands it. Right? People who work there, they look at one aspect and then they get enthused to make, more, bring in more methods which can bring in automation into the organization. So I think that's something that can develop very organically. It's not something that we have to strive too much over or make it like big blueprint which has to be drawn up, right? Some of the things happen on their own, and if it happens organically, I think there is no better way than that. That's the best way. Then it'll come from everybody in the organization. It's not just one person's decision or the management decision which says that we are on this path of automation, but it is for everybody's sake that we're doing it. For every stakeholder, it is a plus point.
Now, moving on to our next question, Meetali, which is about technical challenges. Can you tell our attendees what are some of the common technical challenges when adopting automation, and how can they be addressed?
Okay, so the technology in the industry itself is changing. Right? There are some things which are very expensive, especially when you go into precision and the electronic part of it. Yeah, that is getting, that is still quite expensive. It is not achievable. So when it comes to, if I have to talk about the technology, probably the hydraulic and the pneumatic devices are the cheapest to start with. Right? So if you want to do some automation using hydraulics and pneumatics, it is cheaper and easier, more easily available to use these devices to bring in automation. Right? Then when you go into servo technology, all of that, those are expensive and maybe at next level. Once you are done with, the basic operations, right? Then from, as I said, the IT thing is pretty easy. right? Unless you're going into really newer technologies, but even Python and all are getting very common nowadays. So we can use these devices at a basic level. Your Excel and all can definitely do your automation, to a very large extent. I know a company in Kolkata where a retired person actually devised their entire system only on Excel. He's done it on his own, just by going on the internet, watching YouTube videos, and studying Microsoft Advanced Excel, and the entire inventory down to the last screw, nut, bolt is maintained on that device, totally automated and done in-house, right? So something as simple as that can be done, and then of course it can be scaled up to other processes. But I think end of the day, what works for you is something we need to take a decision. We really need to get a feel, as entrepreneurs, get a feel of the place, our people who are there in the organization, the machines that we have, where are we located, what do we want to do, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What is that? We need to be able to look there, right? And then take the decision. But as I said, to be able to look into the future, we need to have that, we shouldn't have myopic vision. And we develop myopic vision when we're involved in the everyday processes, in our organization. Who has entered the gate? We're looking at the CCTV, things like that. If you're looking at those kind of things, then our eyes, our vision is myopic. So we are unable to look further beyond that screen in front of us. So if you want to look 5 years, 10 years down the line and take a decision, then, it becomes from a broader perspective, the big picture. We can easily tell the smaller ones what we can, what have to be sorted out. So scaling it up is something that will happen if we can see the big picture.
Now the crux of the matter, the ROI part of it. How can businesses measure ROI of an automation investment effectively?
As I said, the budget, the starting budget. So that itself tells you what device you can use, pretty much what technology you can use to implement your automation. Yeah, we all know what funds we have, what our turnover was last year, what we plan to scale it up, what is the model that we are going towards. So let's say we start with our 100 of last year and we want to go up to 120. So how do we scale it up over the 12 months? Right? So we're looking at going from that 8 point something to 12 per month. Now, in order to do that, what has to be our production? Right? So we already know from that our raw material, so that is already set aside. So we do that whole budgeting, and then I think it will be too pedestrian if I go into the smaller details. But once we have that in place, we know we can set aside some money for automation. We have to do that every single year. Break it down into quarters, decide for ourselves. ROI for automation is not about measuring how much we can get out of it, how much more we can get out of it, but it is more than quantity, right? It is about, as I said, precision. It is about it's faster, more precise, and easier. There are 3 aspects. So how it is benefiting your employee part of it. Yeah, that ROI, nobody measures those kind of things. We only look at how many numbers we can get out at the end of it. But the fact that we have got lesser rejection, we've got a better quality product. That quality is also never measured, right? We have a better quality when we have done some automation. We've got a happier employee, and we have got more numbers. So these 3 ROIs, if we can, put in place, everything looks very great. It looks fantastic to go in for some automation.
Now, an often neglected area is upskilling and employee training. Could you tell our attendees why upskilling and employee training is crucial for successful automation adoption?
I think to start with, no, entrepreneurs themselves should upskill every every year if possible, but definitely every 2 years. From personal experience, an MBA that was done about 12, I think, or 15, whatever, 15 years ago, the things that were taught then vis-a-vis what I did 2 years ago at a small, executive program, the world of difference. The whole management tools have changed. It's a whole new world out there. And 2 years later, I again did a small program, a short 3 weeks program in ISB. Again, it's taught a whole lot of new things. So I think, first of all, entrepreneurs should get off this high horse that I know everything. The world stops with me and my knowledge. And so we have to constantly upskill ourselves and look at what is happening around us. And unless we step out of our small world of MSME and look outside, we will not know, right, what is happening in the world outside. So it starts here. Another anecdote I must tell you, I met this director of he's 7-8 companies. He's a director, fantastic person who runs all these companies out of a 10 by 20 office, right, and in a small town. And he said every 2 years, I just go anywhere in the world. I do a small program and come back just to upskill myself, right? So once you start doing that from your employees is mandatory. Now, where we are in Bangalore, at least, we have a lot of industrial associations, organizations who are all the time. There are a lot of government bodies also which are running upskilling programs for people. And we constantly send our staff for these programs, whatever. It could be something for our facility manager, it could be something as important for him as first aid. I even remember the practices that were followed by a supervisor like 20 years ago to now, the world of difference. Even just the band-aid is different, to what it is now. And programming, CNC programming things that we send are, of course, today we have in-house tutorials. We have developed our in-house tutorials. But this is something that we tell all our staff. You have to constantly upgrade yourself. Without that, in fact, the times are so good nowadays. We have Google Guru with us. There's so much we learn by just, we tell them. So every time even I see something, we have our office, intra-office group, and I share it on that. All of us, our directors, all of us, if we see something that's useful for the staff, we put it in the group and tell everyone to see it. We have... every week we have meetings where everyone shares what they have done for the week. And if it's something that's useful for the others, they say, okay, please show us also how to do it. So they actually have within themselves, they have this thing where they teach each other. If someone knows more than the other, so there is that cross experience that they share, right, across the boards. There are sometimes someone from another department knows which is useful for everyone out here. And so this is something we have to constantly do. Upskilling goes without saying. I mean, today, you, me, all of us, where would we be if we were not, keeping up with the times? I took a break when I was, with my first child. I was pregnant with my first child. And that time I was working in another organization. I was not with the business. And in that 1.5 years that I took a break, emails had come in. From where we were sending handwritten memos to emails having. So I had to learn. That's a given for everybody.
How can data from automated processes be used to optimize overall operations?
I think we just spoke about that earlier, where it is all interlinked. Unless you have the data to work with, it's really, we are all kind of fumbling in the dark. Data is king. It is so true. It is so true. I believe today data is cash, is king, is currency, is is knowledge also. I mean, what you can make out of the data, that is. So I think data analysis is a very important skill that we need to have today. Because unless we are able to map the data and see how it can work for us, we will be quite lost. There is some amount of gut feel. I do believe that does work for, especially with people with immense amount of experience in the industry. A lot of people do believe their instincts and gut feel are crucial, which is good. I mean, if you have that kind of capability, it's great. Sometimes, your senses just tell you it's not okay, or this is it. You do get that gut feeling, but end of the day, you need to back it up with data, right? And that is something that has to be monitored all the time. If you're talking about upskilling, I think data analytics is a huge skill that all people should acquire. Any entrepreneur, any person in management should acquire data analytics skills. To be able to read data, that's so much important, because there is a lot of it around, right? And how to match it is, there are software which do it for you. I mean, in our office, we even developed this decision-making matrix, which we use quite often. So the people in our purchase, so we have 3 criteria. We have quality, time, and cost. So anything which you have to buy, so you put down what is your weightage for each of them. So there's a simple Excel for anything, right? So we just tell them that, put it over there. What is the weightage in this case, right? So it varies, the quality and time, all that varies every time. Put the weightage and see which one you should opt for. If you have 3 quotations from 3 places, this is how you go for it. In fact, we had used it at home also with my daughter when she wanted a cat, and I said, okay, we'll do the decision-making matrix to see if we should have a cat or not, right? So, today there are automated tools for making your decision, where they ask you a bunch of questions and it tells you at the end of the day, should you do this or not, right? So, we need to be able to use data effectively. Unless we can map it, we cannot use that data.
And how can Meetali automated systems be scalable as the business grows?
Again, I'll go back to what we spoke about earlier. Once you do the smaller things, the bigger ones get more achievable, right? So when we started, we said small things. A simple thing like our machine, after finishing machine, the door closing. Now that's a manual process. The operator does it. It may or may not close fully. The chances of, first of all, the coolant coming out, spilling on the floor, any chip going and injuring the operator, all those risks are there. So we said, let's not leave it. We did something small as just putting a pneumatic cylinder on top of the machine, which closes the door automatically. Moment the machine, just before the machine can start, it closes the door. So that was a small act of automation. To cut to today, where the 2 machines are run automatically by a gantry robot. So what happened for us, you tend to think bigger, no? See, especially if you get a success with a small task, you want to scale it up, right? Because that gives you the incentive to say oh, this was done. Why not next? Why not next? Why not look at something bigger, better, right? So I think that becomes a part of your mindset. Yeah. Just like we want to scale up our operations, I think very few of us want to say, I want to stay at this turnover only for the next, 10 years. I want to be here itself. I mean, the sheer inflation will beat you down. Right, so growth is natural. It's innate. It's part of our beings, right? We do lose hope also. There are times where we kind of we're done. we're just done with this and we want to, it's what is there. We're not looking at too much of growth. So then it will not happen. If you don't mind, I'd like to share a personal, instance. So I've been in this company for now from 2000 actually, 2000. And 2003 fully actively I was working. Initially it was just sales, and then operations I started from 2003. And after 21 years, I think I just reached that point of bas ho gaya, I'm done with operations. I think I was like really tired, just tired. Now not everyone is as fortunate as me. So we had our operations divided into the different sectors. So I was looking after one sector, my husband was looking after another sector. He was looking after the machines, I was looking after hydraulics. And then I don't know why I was just reached this point of extreme tiredness, and maybe it's the age, I don't know what it was. So my husband very gallantly stepped in and he says, okay, I'll look after operations. So he took over, and then I said, let me look at the bigger picture and the more digital aspect of it, and so I moved to the softer side of things starting this year, actually since the last 2 months. Of course, must say the umbilical cord to the shop floor is still not broken. So every time we go to the office, I first enter the shop floor and have to do one round of it. And it's very hard to break away and not look at things and say, acha ye, why is this like this? And what is happening today, what, the general talking to everybody. So that has still not gone. That it'll take a long time to sever that cord. But the fact is, I took a break. Now, I was lucky I had somebody with me who took this up. Not everyone has that good fortune, right? So it can get tiring for all of us, entrepreneurs. It's not easy, every day motivating yourself to get up there and make things happen is not the easiest job, right? When we do upskilling programs and go for programs, it does motivate you, it does gives you that impetus to take that extra step. But all of it has to come from within us, right? So it is tiring, and once we are on that path, definitely better. Once we are bigger, we have layers beneath us, it gets easier. So if you're scaling up, there will definitely be layers below you, and slowly the pressure on you will reduce. So one has to work towards that, So once you're automating, you're scaling up, you're growing, you will feel less pressure.
Are there, Meetali, any safety considerations that one should take into account when introducing automation?
That comes with every device. Moment to anything. See, one thing in manufacturing, in industry, safety is taken whether you're doing manual or automation. That's a given. Safety is, you're dealing with devices which are bigger, stronger than you, and can do a lot more than you, than a human hand can. So safety is part of the protocol, whatever the process, whether it's manual or automated.
And my last question for today's seminar is how can a business adapt to the changing work culture as traditional roles evolve with automation?
I think another aspect that has in recent times been the case is coming from, if any of the old school people are there, they would have had employees who've been with them for 30 years, 40 years, till retirement, who have gone. Cut to now where, there are people who don't stay for more than a year. Everyone is seeking change. Employees are seeking change. Employers feel like, oh, it's more than 2 years. Why is that person still here? It's almost become like that. So in cases like that, what happens is, if your process is automated, you are not affected too much by the people who come and go, right? Your culture stays the same. So anyone who comes into the organization is part of that culture, right? Is part of that whole process that you have, right? This has been the current. There has, from the traditional one is that you will see different people will bring in their way of working, right? And sometimes we integrate the different into our, they bring in good things. A lot of new people, also new thoughts, new ideas, they come, and we can integrate that into our existing work culture. There are changes that happen, right? Just the man-woman equation in an organization today compared to what it was earlier. I always say this: in manufacturing in the old days, people saw women only as secretarial staff or housekeeping staff. So for them to even accept that women could play different roles was non-existent. Whereas today in our company and many companies, I have heard of Bajaj where they have an entire shop floor run by women, right? So I would love to have that. Not achieved it so far, but we have a whole lot of women in our workforce, right? And they are, working together, everybody, right? In fact, when we have our posh meetings, every year, and we asked one of our when we wanted to bring women into the shop floor, so we brought all our staff together and we asked them, this is what we want to do, and we said, how are you about it? And so there were a lot of workers who said, we are cool with it, the younger ones. But one of the older ones who's married with a kid, and he got up and said, what, I am not comfortable with it, right? So we said, okay, what can we do to give you that comfort level, right? So he came up with, he said, there's too much of physical proximity, right? So we started by introducing women in the assembly area, which is away from the main shop floor. And so it's a continuous dialogue. So once they see more and more women, everyone sitting at the lunch table together, conversations happen. So then that ease comes in, right? And then today that same person is okay. It's totally okay with it, but it's taken time. So I think work culture is something that is also very dynamic. Okay, we can't say how we were 10 years ago will be the same that we are now, and all of that doesn't work, right? So our work culture, though, I think some basic ethics, if we have in place, that this is what is a absolute no, this is what we will not allow, then the rest kind of falls into place. There are variables, there will be changes all the time. The kind of fluidity we have in our workforce will change. The dynamics, the gender dynamics, the power equations, all of that change, every organization. But I think there are some ethics, like for us in our place, as far as dishonesty or any kind of harassment of the workforce is an absolute no. There is no two ways about it. You're out. Yeah. Or you fight in the organization, anything to do with religion, all of that is an absolute no. So no matter what you are, you may be the best person around, but you being a bad person is not acceptable, right? So there are some things that we have a basic about. Then the rest of it is variable. We do have changes within that. We have evolved personally over the years, and our way of thinking has changed a lot. And so I think we all have to be very, very fluid about all of these.
I think the end notice change is the only constant, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, this is the most annoying thing I do, I think it's nice, but like my husband is most annoyed. Even in the house, I keep changing the furniture every 6 months. Like I don't want it to be the same. And even in the office, so let's change this around, because it's fresh ideas, fresh thought, you look at a different wall after 6 months, it definitely gets a new idea. So yeah, it changes the constant. You said it. Yeah.
With that, we've come to the end of today's masterclass. Meetali, it was genuinely lovely having you, and we shared some insights on a very integral topic, which is automation with MSMEs. And we would want to thank you with all our hearts for making time for this and sharing your insights and intel on this. Thank you so much, Meetali.
Thank you very much, Amrita, and I'm so happy that we got this chance, and I would love for it to have been more interactive with the actually MSME entrepreneurs, because I'm sure we can all share ideas, and teach each other so much.
Absolutely. With our attendees, whoever is online, if you'd like to see this episode, if you've missed any part of this episode, or if you'd like to see any of our previously done episodes, you can go on YouTube, type GSW1 MSME, and you will find all the episodes uploaded there. You can watch it on YouTube. Thank you so much, Meetali, once again. See you.
Right. Bye. Have a good day.